Hi guys, Josh Lloyd here. NBA first look for DraftKings on Tuesday. We've got a pretty busy slate of games, 9 games on. Let's talk about those games now, but before I do, hit the notification bell, give it a thumbs up, drop a comment, and if you're not subscribed for some reason, subscribe. Easy done. All right, let's talk about this first game, the Atlanta Hawks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Real blowout potential here. The Hawks are 7-point favorites, and the total is 229. Taurean Prince is doubtful. Larry Nance won't play. Kevin Love won't play. So Chetty Osman will likely get another start at power forward. Of course, no Andre Drummond as well. And no Bogdanovic or DeAndre Hunter for the Atlanta Hawks. Jarrett Allen is priced up at 7,500 because he's been getting a ton of minutes and a ton of usage, ton of looks. 56 fantasy points he dropped last game. I actually like him quite a bit in this one. I also like Darius Garland at just 6,100. I've liked what he's been doing of late as well. He's averaging over 31 points in his last 3 contests, which is pretty good value for a guy at 6,100. And the Hawks defense isn't particularly great. I think Clint Capella, this is a great game to use both of these centers because they can both put up big numbers and both can allow pretty good numbers as well. So Capella at 7,900 looks all right. I also think Osman at his 5,600 price as a starter has some appeal. He's averaging almost 32 DraftKings points over the last 3 games. Trey's at 97. That's awesome. The blowout is the only risk there with Trey, I think. And then you got Sexton at 7,200, which is all right for cash, but I'd say pretty limited to overall upside. And I have to like John Collins. Despite his form being really bad, I think he can have a good shooting night. And I think at 6,500, he can beat that number. So I'd feel okay about Johnny Collins at a $6,500 price point. The next game that we take a look at is the Detroit Pistons and the Orlando Magic. We had this game just a couple of days ago, and we had someone by the name of Saban Lee outperform Dennis Smith Jr. I don't know whether that'll be the case again, but it's going to be a really interesting decision. Do you go based on what happened last game, or do you go back to Dennis Smith? Now, Lee is only priced at 3,200, so there is a ton of value in him, but I'd be creating lineups with both guys in to see which direction they can go. Fournier's at 6,800. I really like him. He's averaging 42 over the last 3, while Smith's up to 4,200. So still some value in Smith, because if he gets those starters minutes, he'll beat that number. So you wouldn't want to use Lee and Smith together, but they're good options to have in different lineups. Nick Vucevic here is up over $10,000 dues. He dropped 65 in the game that we just saw between these two teams, and he has been an absolute monster all season, so I don't mind him. While Al-Farouq Aminu had a really good game last time, on the back of a lot of defensive stats, 26 points, and he's at 3,400. I wouldn't really recommend using him because I don't think that level of defensive production is real. The 7,600 for Jeremy Grant is a great cash option. I'm not sure it's a good tournament option. And the same goes for Sadiq Bey at 56. Not a bad cash play, but a pretty limited upside play for tournaments. Next up, we look at the Golden State Warriors and the New York Knicks. No spread or total available here for this game. So we're going pretty blind. It looks like Steph Curry is going to return for this one. He's officially listed as questionable, but the Warriors and Steve Kerr said that it's likely that he is here playing. So that's obviously important for the value of other players around, and of course for Steph and the enjoyment of watching this game. In this one, in terms of value, Wiggins at 6,200 I think is not a bad cash option. That's a pretty cheap price for a guy who's been putting up okay numbers. Steph is at 10,000, which I love if he does play, and I assume he does play here. Noel's at 49, and he has been a little underwhelming. I don't mind it, but I'm not completely in love with it. While Randall at 9,300, I think comes in at a relatively good spot. I like that. I don't love it, but I do like it. Draymond, we also got James Wiseman and Kevon Looney, both questionable. So we could get a real mix-up in the center rotation here for the Warriors, which has an impact on guys like Draymond Green. Oubre is shooting the absolute lights out. He is up to 6,900. Do I trust that? God, no. And 6,900 is a pretty expensive price for a guy that I don't particularly trust to be all that good here. Philadelphia and Toronto, no spread or total out for this game just yet. But we saw the Raptors get a big win over the Sixers last time they played, just a couple of days ago. Kyle Lowry is questionable, and that's going to have a big impact on what happens for the Raptors. Shake Milton down at 3,900 for Philadelphia. Now, he played a lot of minutes last game, but was not good. I don't mind taking a flyer on him. It's just someone who might be able to drop you a 25, 26 that realistically, no one's really going to be using him. And I think that could provide some differentiation at a sub $4,000 price point for Shake Milton. Embiid at 10.6, that's absolutely great as a top-end guy. He's going to get 50 almost every single night. I like Siakam at 8,100, especially if Kyle Lowry is out. That looks pretty strong to me. And Van Vliet at 85 would be good if Lowry is sidelined. Simmons is up to 9,000 because he's been putting up great numbers. Like awesome numbers at $9,000, Ben Simmons. 53 points over his last 3 games. I don't think I fully trust that, so I'd be cautious with it. And Chris Boucher's at 58. He had a good game last time against Embiid. The first time he played Embiid, we all know how poorly that went. You only want to use him in GPPs. I think he'll be okay, but I'm not willing to get too excited about it. Boston and Dallas is the next game that we take a look at here. This is a back-to-back for the Mavs. They didn't have Kristaps Porzingis play in their Monday game with a sore back. I imagine he is ready to go in this one. If we look at the guys, Robert Williams, 3,900 for Rob. Of course, there's no Marcus Smart. Williams played 21 minutes in the overtime game last time, and he's playing at a really high level, generating big defensive numbers. Look, 36 and 33 points in the last 2 games, and at 3,900, that's pretty good. Now, I think a lot of people will be rostering him, but I still think there's value in him here. I wouldn't want to use Tyson Thompson just with the Williams issue, but it is a good matchup for all of those guys. Porzingis is at 82. I'd probably fade off of him, while Doncic at 11.2. I think he's probably a little bit on the high side to me. Kemba Walker's down at 6,400, and I don't mind that in GPPs. People will be pretty annoyed with how Kemba's played, but I'd be okay with taking a flyer there. 8,000 for Jaylen Brown feels on the high side, and 89 for Jason Tatum feels on the good side. I like that for Tatum at 8,900. Some value in him there. Richardson, probably not. Brunson is up to 46. I'm not really all that keen on any of those Mavericks guys there. The Kings and the Nets is the next game that we take a look at here. No Kevin Durant once again for Brooklyn. He's still dealing with that hamstring issue. So we're going to get those weird lineups where Bruce Brown is starting most likely. James Harden at 10,700. Upped his usage last game. He's getting tons of assists. Love him at that price. De'Aaron Fox has been a little bit disappointing. I won't use him at 8,000, while Kyrie at 8,800 I think is really good value as well, especially for cash games. Without Durant, Irving is giving us, 43 over the last 4 games, which at 8,800 is not really a bad number at all. Hield at 63, you can absolutely take that one. I have no interest in Bud Hield at that price. While DeAndre Jordan at 5,500, he's been outperforming his numbers lately, and I've liked what he's done off the bench. I don't think he's a terrible play here. Rashawn Holmes, I'm a little worried about the minutes, so I wouldn't use him, and Marvin Bagley's too hard to predict at 5,900. No interest there, and I'm not even sure the upside's high enough. Halliburton's up at 6,500, which is pretty high. But when you look at what he did last game, maybe it's not. He had 48 points in that one, but 32 the game before that, 20 the game before that, 19 the game before that. Really hard to trust it, and that upside play I'm not sure is necessarily there. While Harrison Barnes has missed the last few, if he is out, maybe we do look at Daquan Jeffries again, who was excellent in the start, and he's only priced at 3,800. He had 34 DraftKings points, and the Nets defense is not something that's particularly bothersome, so I do think that if Barnes is ruled out, he's at least someone that we can have a look at. Next game that we take a look at is the team with a new coach, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Chris Finch in charge for his first game, taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. This could get ugly. The Bucks are 11.5 point favorites, and the total is 230. But it could be also very interesting. Yanni is at 11,000. I do like that quite a bit for Antetokounmpo. He should be putting up 60 plus pretty comfortably. While Towns at 9.6, I think we're going to get a really big Towns game in this one. Finch knows how to use big man, and he hopefully won't be getting inefficient chuckers like Anthony Edwards to take the bulk of the shots. It should be Towns. He dropped 60 last game. No reason to me that he can't drop 60 again in this one. Beasley's at 6,600. That's probably a little bit too high. Edwards at 58. Not interested in that. And Middleton at 84 also feels a little bit on the high side. Maybe you take a flyer on a Jaden McDaniels at 3,700. I don't know what Finch will do at starting power forward. Maybe it's Vanderbilt, maybe it's McDaniels, but both of those guys, much like with the Lee and Smith conundrum for the Pistons, you could throw the different one of those guys into different lineups and see who gets the bulk of those minutes. Just finding the right combination, of course, is going to be a tough thing to do. The next game we take a look at, we're looking at the Portland Trailblazers, back-to-back for them, taking on the Denver Nuggets in Denver. We do have a spread. The Nuggets are 8-point favorites, and the total is 230.5. No Millsap, no Green, no Gary Harris for Denver. Zeke Naji, 3,100. He probably gets another start. He didn't do a huge amount last game, but at basically minimum salary. His 12 points last game was fine, and he could easily do better. I like him there. 10-8 for Jokic looks pretty good for me as well, going up against Enes Kanter. And then you've got guys like Facu Campazzo at 44, who's getting a ton of minutes at the moment, Facu, and playing relatively well, averaging over 25 points in his last 5 games. And at 4,400, that's good value. Porter, really tough to use him at this stage. Well, Lillard's at 10,400, and we know what he's been doing. The only hesitation I have is the back-to-back for Lillard, but otherwise it's pretty good. Jamal Murray also on a hot streak, the headmaster, averaging 58 points over his last three, and I don't think the defensive abilities of Lillard and Trent are going to be potentially slowing him down that much. The last game of the night we look at, the Wizards and the Clippers. We do not know whether Russell Westbrook is going to play. Scott Brooks says it's likely that he plays, but we just don't know that at this stage. No spread or total out for this one. The Clippers come in totally healthy as well. Beal's at 9,500. I think you like that, and you like it even more if Westbrook is ruled out. So I do like that one there for Beal. Kawhi's at 9,400, and he should be able to get those numbers pretty comfortably. Good value for him. Westbrook at 9,800. I think if Westbrook plays, it's not bad. Not bad value. He has been racking up pretty good counting stats of late. And there's not a huge amount else in this game that I like. Maybe Avdija at 3,200, but probably not. Paul George is probably going to be minutes limited again, but he is averaging 48 in 31 minutes over his last three. And at 9,100, there is some value in Paul George, but I wouldn't say that he is the best value on the slate there at all. Someone requested maybe I just give a couple of my top plays. Now, I can do that now, but things change quite a bit by the time you get around to it. But I'm looking at guys like Najee. I'm looking at Saban Lee. I'm looking at Rob Williams, all sub $4,000 players. I'm looking at Jarrett Allen, and then I'm looking at James Harden as probably my top 5 guys at this early stage for this slate. All right, guys, that'll do it for me today. Don't forget to subscribe. You can check out my channel as well, Josh Lloyd Fantasy Basketball, linked in the title and in the description. And subscribe to Al's channel right here. Great stuff always coming at you, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.